Chapter 286. Imminent Battle. "You've spared me the trouble of hunting you down," Luigi said coolly. He lifted his silver longsword and stepped forward, and in that instant his figure vanished like smoke. In the next breath, countless streaks of swordlight erupted, crashing headlong into the blossoming projection of the snow lotus. Thousands of collisions unfolded in a blink, shrill screeches tearing through the air as space itself shuddered violently. "I'll see you on the island, fellow Taoist Shui Han," Zhongluan called out. With a flip of his hand, a long black saber appeared, and he leapt from the black spirit boat, plunging straight toward the nearest island puppet. "That won't take long," Shui Han muttered. With a sweep of his sleeve, a palm-sized golden ring shot forth in a flash of light, swelling rapidly until it spanned over 1,000 feet, hovering like a golden sun in the sky. As he chanted, dense layers of runes surfaced across the ring, radiating yellow light and surging with oppressive law fluctuations. Dull thuds echoed beneath the ring as invisible pressure sealed the space below, crushing downward. A massive indentation appeared on the colorful light barrier, which trembled violently amid incessant buzzing. Shui Han roared and slammed his palm down, tearing open a long fissure in the barrier, as though it might collapse at any moment. At that critical instant, a streak of blue light shot upward and struck the golden ring with a resounding clang. The ring shuddered, its radiance wavering, and the pressure below eased, allowing the light barrier to recover. Shui Han's gaze darkened as he looked down, spotting a graceful woman in palace robes ascending with a shimmering blue sword, accompanied by a gray-robed Taoist priest. A silver gourd hung at the priest's waist, a golden whisk in hand, seemingly human, yet in truth an exquisitely lifelike high-grade puppet. "A faux immortal puppet," Shui Han laughed, licking his lips. With a beckoning gesture, the golden ring shrank and returned to his wrist, and he flew straight toward the pair. Meanwhile, the ubiquitous pavilion cultivators had scattered, abandoning the direct assault on the light barrier, and instead charging toward the surrounding array islands. They had realized the barrier was linked to the giant puppets guarding the main island. Destroy the puppets, and the barrier would unravel. Naturally, the holy puppet sect rose to meet them, and battle erupted across the skies. The itinerant cultivators of the ubiquitous pavilion unleashed wildly varied techniques. In the northwest, ferocious spirit beasts, nearly 1,000 feet tall, stormed the puppet ranks. In the southeast, a colossal black flag summoned yin winds that stripped flesh from bone. In the southwest, a bone box released swarms of golden hornets whose venomous stingers ravaged their foes. Though less diverse in technique, the holy puppet sect fought with grim resolve, backed by overwhelming numbers of puppets, slowly gaining the upper hand. Above, black spirit boats dispersed, their golden patterns blazing as massive golden spears rained down. Mechanical flying boats answered with storms of crimson fireballs, the collisions detonating in deafening booms as golden light and flames tore the sky into chaos. On the southwestern island where Han Li and Qilin 9 were stationed, the latter surveyed the horizon grimly. "Over 200 are coming, 3 true immortals among them. You and I handle the true immortals. Leave the rest to the sect," Han Li said. "Just as I was thinking," Qilin 9 replied. They surged into the air as incantations rang out and countless talismans released waves of puppets. The opposing true immortals advanced, a burly young man, a thin old man, and a voluptuous woman. Recognizing Han Li and Qilin 9 as formidable foes, they quickly divided their targets. The burly man charged Han Li, flicking his wrist to unleash a streak of black light that expanded into a mountain-sized black axe. A terrifying gale preceded it, threatening to rend space itself. Though surprised by the ferocity, Han Li reacted instantly. Golden scales flashed over his arm as he drove a clenched fist into the descending blade. A thunderous boom shook the air. Han Li was forced downward over 1,000 feet before stabilizing himself, while the axe was hurled back, shrinking as it returned to its master. The burly man staggered, eyes wide. "A profound immortal?" Han Li answered with action alone. Forming a seal, he summoned the heavy water true axis, its water law power surging. With a command, it spun into a black blur and shot forward in an instant. The burly man grimaced and braced his axe like a shield, confident in its peerless sturdiness as the decisive clash loomed. Chapter 287, 2 against 3. The heavy water true axis flashed forth like a falling star, reaching the giant axe in the blink of an eye. A water Dao rune upon its surface flared with blue radiance, and surging water law might crash down with unfathomable force. The spirit patterns on the axe lit up desperately, then shattered one after another, and the massive weapon itself burst apart into countless fragments. Shock flickered across the burly man's face. A beam of light bloomed from his chest, forming a yellow array projection that barely managed to block the axis. Hanli frowned slightly. Through his spiritual connection, he sensed the heavy water true axis sinking as if into a mire, its power rapidly being drained away. Without hesitation, he poured in more immortal essence. A thunderous boom resounded as mountain-like pressure slammed into the burly man's chest. Though the talisman absorbed much of the force, it was still overwhelming. He was blasted backward, blood spraying from his mouth. Elsewhere, Qilin 9 was locked in a brutal struggle against the remaining two true immortals. The voluptuous woman wielded a purple whip studded with glowing bars, flicking it through the air until countless whip shadows lashed out from every direction. Qilin 9 swung his ancient golden sword with boundless might, swordlight streaking forth to shred the incoming attacks. 9 radiant stars shone upon the blade, forming a brilliant defensive barrier around him. At that instant, black light flickered behind him. A thin old man emerged soundlessly, silver claws gleaming as he plunged them into the light barrier. Runes flared, and with a violent pull, he tore open a gash. His eyes glinted viciously as he spat forth a dark green needle treasure, shooting straight toward Qilin 9's heart. Though Qilin 9 had been wary of the old man all along, the ambush still came too fast. The old man cackled coldly, declaring his end. Yet a golden glow erupted behind Qilin 9 as an antiquated square mirror appeared. A clear clang rang out. The needle rebounded harmlessly. A thunderous roar followed from within the mirror, sending dread through the old man's heart. He hastily recalled his treasure and retreated. Light flashed again, and a massive golden tiger with blazing red stripes leapt from the mirror, jaws snapping shut. The old man flicked his wrist, releasing a thin green cord that transformed into an azure python, coiling tightly around the tiger. Seizing the moment, he retreated to the woman's side thousands of feet away, muttering in irritation that he should have chosen the cow-masked foe instead. Before his words faded, a miserable howl echoed. He turned to see the burly man being stomped downward by Han Li. Plummeting toward the sea like discarded cargo, Han Li followed in a streak of azure light. Grim-faced, the thin old man spoke, warning that without going all out, not only would plunder be impossible, but their lives might be lost. The voluptuous woman smiled seductively, asking him to hold Qilin 9 while she changed into something more comfortable. Shuddering, the old man summoned a massive yellow flag and charged back into battle. The woman's eyes turned cruel as she drew down her robes, revealing a tattoo on her arm, a red-dressed woman holding a lute, half hidden and smiling strangely. This was no mere decoration, but a sinister treasure refined from human skin and nourished with her own flesh and blood. Chanting an eerie incantation, the tattoo blurred and bled into her skin, crimson spreading across her body. With a pained groan, her black cloak faded, and she transformed fully into the red-dressed woman, her cultivation surging to the late true immortal stage. She flicked her wrist, releasing a crimson oil paper umbrella that opened midair and flew toward Qilin 9 as she followed coldly behind, intent on ending the battle swiftly. Suddenly, a deafening explosion erupted from the sea. Waves surged skyward as Han Li rose into the air, the heavy water true axis revolving behind him. Moments later, the burly man also burst forth, his body gleaming gold as blood poured from his senses. Regret filled his heart, forced to consume his treasured golden rot pill. He had barely endured Han Li's relentless assault. That mysterious black wheel was water-aspected, yet weighed like an entire ocean. He produced a white bone shard etched with crimson patterns, hesitating as faint energy rippled from it. Above, Han Li glanced toward Qilin 9, now pressed back by two foes, and his gaze returned coldly to the burly man. The hesitation vanished. Clasping the shard, the burly man chanted as smoke billowed and azure flames ignited, forming a fire lotus that shot forward. This was the phosphorus bone flame, a rare, single-use inferno born only under extreme conditions. With a forceful thrust, the lotus drifted deceptively fast toward Han Li, erupting into countless azure fireballs. Han Li commanded the heavy water true axis forward. Black light burst forth as it formed a massive shield. The flames were not extinguished. Instead, they clung to the axis, releasing scorching power. Han Li sensed the strange force evaporating the heavy water, subtly reducing its weight. Alarmed, he acted at once. A tiny silver figure formed in his palm, grinning before leaping forth and transforming into a wave of silver fire. It entwined with the azure flames upon the axis. Silver and blue fires writhed together, evenly matched. For now, neither able to devour the other. Chapter 288. Saved in the Nick of Time. As the flame of essence and the phosphorus bone flame clashed fiercely in mid-air, their powers grinding against one another, Han Li formed a hand seal with calm precision. With a flick of his wrist, an azure longsword appeared in his grasp. Emerging from behind the heavy water true axis, he surged forward, charging straight at the burly man. Startled, the burly man hastily changed his hand seal. From the fiery azure lotus bloomed clusters of azure flames that shot toward Han Li like blazing meteors. Han Li responded with a sweeping slash, sword light blossoming outward like a lotus in full bloom. Countless sword projections surged forth, neatly intercepting the incoming fireballs. The azure flames were notoriously adhesive, capable of instantly clinging to the heavy water true axis, yet to the burly man's disbelief, they failed to stick to Han Li's sword in the slightest. Gritting his teeth, the burly man spat out a mouthful of blood essence and pointed at it. The blood transformed into mist and vanished into the lotus flower. The fiery lotus began spinning wildly. Its petals trembled, then shot out one by one, transforming into razor-sharp azure blades that swept toward Han Li in a devastating tide. Unhurried, Han Li formed another seal while slashing his sword. Massive sword projections erupted forth, appearing chaotic and uncoordinated, yet somehow perfectly countering every incoming blade. A second wave of dread rose in the burly man's heart. Deciding the risk was too great, he clasped his hands together. With a thunderous boom, the lotus swelled to several times its size before violently detonating. A vast sea of azure flames engulfed the sword projections, filling the sky with scorching heat and piercing sharpness. Without hesitation, the burly man ignited a golden talisman between his fingers and vanished in a flash of golden light. Yet dozens of kilometers away, an enormous azure longsword suddenly manifested. The fleeing burly man, still mid-escape, struck directly into its blade and was instantly cleaved in two. His purple nascent soul fled in terror, only to be ensnared by a silver net and obliterated in a crackling burst of energy. Even in death, he never understood how Han Li had intercepted him so swiftly. In truth, the moment the phosphorus bone flame detonated, Han Li had activated the reversal true axis, pushing his speed to terrifying extremes. Han Li stowed his sword, summoned the fallen man's storage treasures, and found the harvest highly satisfying. He then returned to the heavy water true axis, where the essence fire raven had already devoured the remaining flame, and now sat cheerfully in humanoid form. At Han Li's return, it transformed back into a silver raven and slipped into his sleeve. Turning his gaze to the battlefield below, Han Li saw heavy casualties among the Holy Puppet sect and ubiquitous pavilion cultivators. Several enemies attempted to destroy the giant puppet, but it pivoted smoothly, its silver blade releasing ferocious wind blades that shredded the attackers' bodies, allowing only their nascent souls to barely escape. Seeing the puppet hold firm, Han Li flew toward Qilin 9. There, the battle had grown dire. The woman in red, transformed and empowered, wielded a red oil paper umbrella that rained down crimson threads capable of slowing immortal spiritual power. Fortunately, the 9-star golden sword around Qilin 9 formed a radiant barrier, keeping most of the threads at bay. Though wounded, the golden tiger from the ancient mirror still prowled protectively. The thin old man's giant azure python had already been torn apart, and it was clear he intended to seize the mirror as compensation. Sensing Han Li's approach, the woman in red summoned a translucent crimson lute and began to play. The pleasant melody caused the umbrella to swell and unleash denser, faster threads. At the same time, the thin old man attacked, ensnaring the golden dragon with countless ring projections and striking down with a massive arc of sword light. Forced to defend, Qilin 9 left his back exposed. Several crimson threads pierced into his body, branching like roots and numbing his limbs while disrupting his power. As a dark green dagger flew toward him, a black wheel suddenly blocked the strike. Han Li appeared instantly, severing all threads with a single sweep. The lifeless vines turned gray, and Qilin Nine's power flow normalized. He thanked Han Li solemnly, and the two prepared to finish the fight together. But the enemy duo, shocked by Han Li's strength and swift kill, lost their will to fight. The thin old man fled without hesitation, and the woman in red cursed softly before retreating atop her umbrella, vanishing into the distance. Chapter 289. Negotiations falling through. Qilin 9 flew into a towering rage, utterly unwilling to let his two attackers withdraw unscathed. "You think you can strike me at will and leave whenever you please?" he roared. With a flick of his hand, a golden talisman appeared. As it swept through the air, golden flames erupted, transforming into radiant light that wrapped around his body. In the next breath, he vanished without warning. Through his vast spiritual sense, Han Li detected that Qilin 9 had already teleported thousands of kilometers away to intercept the red-robed woman. Casting a mocking glance in the direction of the fleeing old man, Han Li withdrew the heavy water true axis back into his body. Silver lightning surged forth, arcs interweaving in an instant to form a compact lightning array around him. Far away above the thunderstorm sea, the thin old man fled desperately, shrouded in murky light. His heart pounded with lingering fear. What cursed luck to run into two monsters like that! If I'd hesitated even a moment, I'd be dead. Suddenly, his expression changed. He halted sharply, retreating over 10,000 feet as thunder boomed ahead. Lightning erupted from nothingness, forming a vast circular array. When the lightning faded, Han Li stood calmly within it. "I've already decided to stay out of this mess," the old man pleaded hastily. "We're both members of the Transient Guild. Could you let me go this once, fellow Taoist?" Han Li merely smiled, unhurried. "There's no deep grudge between us, and I've no desire for needless slaughter, but you nearly killed my companion. Surely some compensation is in order." The old man raised a brow. "And how do you propose we settle this?" Han Li's gaze sharpened. "You're carrying a 30,000-year thistle spirit flower, aren't you?" The old man's face darkened. The flower was real, kept alive in a specially sealed jade box. Its presence should have been impossible to detect. Shock rippled through his heart. Could this man's spiritual sense rival even a golden immortal's? He quickly dismissed the thought, convincing himself Han Li must possess a rare treasure for detecting spirit herbs. After sweeping the surroundings and confirming they were alone, the old man released his full aura, cold laughter spilling forth. "You're overestimating yourself. Do you truly think you can bully me?" Han Li had long since discerned the truth. Among the trio, this frail old man was the most dangerous, having concealed his cultivation and dignity alike in pursuit of survival and gain. If the flower had been surrendered, bloodshed could have been avoided. But now, words were useless. Certain of victory in single combat, Han Li formed a seal. The heavy water true axis burst forth in black radiance, spinning as it smashed forward, black ripples tearing at the air itself. The old man summoned a three-colored ring, projecting countless overlapping images to block the attack. Yet the axis was impossibly heavy, shattering the projections and smashing the ring apart in a deafening clang. Blood surged in the old man's chest as backlash flushed his face. He seized a massive yellow flag, desert, and 3 blazing suns emblazoned upon it, radiating scorching desolation. With a powerful sweep, endless yellow sand surged forth, swallowing everything within nearly 100,000 feet. Han Li was instantly engulfed, vision and spiritual sense smothered by the raging sandstorm. Then a voice rang out behind him. "Taste my 3 sun pass." 3 blazing white orbs shot toward him from different directions. As Han Li prepared to respond, he realized his body would not move. Crystalline white layers had silently spread over his legs, arms, and chest, translucent grains of sand fused by searing heat, freezing him in place. Before panic could take root, azure light surged within him. Just as he was about to shatter the crystals, the old man appeared beside him, green dagger thrusting toward his glabella. Han Li snorted coldly. Golden light flashed in his eyes as overwhelming spiritual sense burst outward. Runes forming around his pupils, the old man instinctively slowed. At that moment, Hanli's voice boomed like a heavenly gong. "Let heaven and earth be cleansed." The sandstorm collapsed instantly. Clouds vanished. The world laid bare. The old man cried out in disbelief and retreated hastily. "Let heavenly fire descend," Hanli proclaimed. White light fell from the sky, transforming into silver flames that cloaked his body. Terror seized the old man. "Impossible. Not even a golden immortal can command reality with words. Take the flower, just spare me." Hanli sneered. "Too late. Let there be lightning." Dark clouds spiraled into existence, thunder roaring. A massive bolt of blue lightning crashed down. Though the old man dodged, countless bolts followed, sealing every path of escape. His will shattered. As he fled desperately and prepared an escape talisman, Hanli vanished, reappearing behind him in a blink. Golden scales covered Hanli's arm as his hand pierced straight through the old man's heart. The storm vanished, revealing only drifting yellow sand. With fading light in his eyes, the old man smiled bitterly. So it was all an illusion? Golden light suddenly burst from his glabella as violent energy surged, his nascent soul about to self-detonate. Hanli's eyes turned cold. Silver lightning erupted from his arm with a thunderous crack, annihilating the nascent soul completely. The old man's body fell lifeless, the battle ending in utter silence. Chapter 290. Observation. Hanli's tense expression finally eased, yet his chest still heaved as he drew in ragged breaths. Though the battle had ended in a blink, the danger he had faced was far graver than it appeared. The crystalline layer that had imprisoned him was unyielding beyond expectation. Even with his formidable immortal body and surging spiritual power, he would have needed several more breaths to break free, more than enough time for death to descend. Had the old man pressed his attack, Hanli would have been utterly defenseless. His glabella would never have endured such a strike, and even if his body survived, the injuries would have been catastrophic. Forced into desperation, Hanli had gambled everything. He unleashed his mantra domain to cloud the opponent's heart with doubt, then summoned an illusory streak of heavenly fire as cover. Beneath that blazing deception, the Essence Fire Raven emerged, shattering the crystalline prison while reinforcing the illusion that Hanli held dominion over the entire space. The old man lost his composure completely, and in that fleeting instant of confusion, Hanli struck with the reversal true axis, ending the battle in a single decisive motion. This encounter only deepened Hanli's vigilance. True immortals all possessed hidden trump cards, and complacency meant death. With a flick of his sleeve, azure light wrapped around the old man's corpse, preventing it from sinking into the sea. Hanli swallowed a restorative pill and sat down to circulate his energy. Fewer than 40 Time Dao runes on his mantra-treasured axis had recovered, and consecutive uses of the reversal true axis had drained both body and soul. After regaining some strength, he searched the corpse and retrieved a long green jade box and an azure tiger mask hidden beneath the robes. Golden and purple talismans sealed the box's aura. Once removed, a purple spirit flower was revealed within, roots intact, overflowing with spiritual chi. Its fragrance alone calmed the spirit. Though not yet fully mature, it was unmistakably a thistle spirit flower, over 30,000 years old, an exceedingly rare treasure imbued with a trace of law power. Even its seeds were absent from the transient guild. Securing such a prize made the entire mission worthwhile. Without it, Hanli would never have bothered pursuing the old man, as his sole duty had been to guard the Holy Puppet sect, not hunt fleeing enemies. He resealed the jade box, reinforced it with additional talismans, and stored it away. The azure tiger mask bore the number 11, identical to Bai Suyuan's, confirming the old man's origins lay far from the ancient cloud continent. Hanli hesitated, then chose to preserve the mask rather than destroy it. He also claimed the storage bracelet, the yellow flag, and the rest of the treasures before flying back toward the island. The battle there still raged. In Hanli's absence, ubiquitous pavilion cultivators had reinforced their forces with over a dozen Grand Ascension experts, overwhelming the Holy Puppet sect. Seeing this from afar, Hanli plunged into the fray, slaughtering the Grand Ascension cultivators in moments. The remaining enemies fled in terror. On the brink of annihilation just moments earlier, the Holy Puppet sect cultivators erupted in joy, their morale surging as they drove the invaders from the island. Hanli regrouped beside the giant puppet as Qilin 9 returned, wounded and ragged, having slain many foes along the way. He admitted that though he had destroyed his opponent's body, her nascent soul had escaped. Han Li teased him lightly about spoils, only to receive an evasive reply. Suddenly, a thunderous boom echoed from the eastern sea. The light barrier over the main island shattered, and the glowing pagoda dimmed. Other islands had fallen. Bound by their orders, Han Li and Qilin 9 chose to remain and observe. With the barrier gone, ubiquitous pavilion cultivators reorganized and surged toward the main island. The battle reignited with even greater ferocity. Explosions shook the heavens, and the island trembled as if on the verge of collapse. Reckless invaders descended through the island's layers, only to be annihilated by hidden restrictions and traps. Black spirit boats descended from the clouds. 2 were seized above a river as massive chains erupted from the depths, dragging them down amid roaring gears and blazing runes until they exploded beneath the water. Turtle puppets formed ranks, firing pillars of blue light skyward. Chaos engulfed the island as holy puppet sect cultivators reinforced the defenses. On the plaza, true Immortal-led enemies clashed fiercely with the defenders. Bai Suyuan lingered at the rear, sword and talisman in hand, eyes sharp with caution. As more puppets joined the fray, the balance began to shift. For the first time, it seemed the tide of battle might yet turn in the holy puppet sect's favor.